Oh man, look at that. Look who it is. It's Aditya. Alpha X64 himself. Aditya, hey man.
Hello, Lee. Long time no see.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. How are they treating you over there?
Bit of taking new things well. It's gonna, it's going on a steady pace though.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, nice. All right. Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you're settling in. And are you going into your new, well, into your full-time role? Do you physically go into work? Is it a
Yeah,
remote?
yeah. 3 days physical, 2 days were remote.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's
But my
nice.
manager demands me to attend 5 days full-time physical work. But it's my choice though, so no issues on that.
So managers are for. They're there to beat you down, you know. They're there to make themselves look good, and then no, yeah. Oh, cool. Okay. Oh, good. Well, we've got well, you've been keeping pace on Meshery CTL. Well, geez, I guess the meeting it's like 5 minutes in. We should probably start the meeting or something. Uh, Pranav, am I hosting today, or are you? Or maybe we're co-hosting today.
Yes, I can. I
Oh,
wasn't sure if you were joining, so I was about to start.
oh, please, yeah, please do.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Meshery Development Meeting. And this is a meeting where today is November 1st, the first day of the month. And this is a meeting where we discuss all Meshery related things which are being developed, whether in the form of backend or front end. So before moving forward, there are a couple of housekeeping items, one of which is that ensure that you mark your attendance by adding your name in the meeting minutes. And if you're joining live, so you should have access to chat. And I've shared the link where you can add your name. And other than that, let's see if there are newcomers and give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So I think Roshan is new. So Roshan, would you like to introduce yourself? Um, Considering there might be some technical issues. So Roshan, you can introduce on the chat as well. So moving on to our first item, that is from Abu Bakr. I think he would be talking about documentation. So Abu Bakr, are you on the call? Okay. So moving on to the next item, which is from Sinali, Pranav, and Yash, which is about workspaces. Sinali, would you like to give introduction about your topic?
Sure. Workspace it is a new feature in the Meshery Cloud extension. So we can now create a new workspace when user login first time, or if it is existing user when they login now they can create new workspace. If it is a new user, when they register, they can create organization and a workspace in account setup. So once we create a workspace, so this is the new UI related to workspaces. So they can a user can create a new workspace here, and later they can assign any design environment or teams to their workspace. So here, like example, we can this model can use to transfer any team or environment design, that kind of thing. Transfer, we can easily transfer those things into the workplaces here.
Hey, Sonali, if you don't mind, maybe just for inquiring minds, are you able to show what that looks like in a responsive mode? That transfer modal?
Mhm.
And when you do it, is there another kind? There's like the environment transfer one and the teams transfer. Um, Empty state going on. Selections moved down. When people are doing it for the environment and there are connections that are listed, are there chips inside of there? You know, the rounded rectangles. I mean, you don't have to demo it necessarily, but I was just curious. Like, so the teams, it's just the name of the team, but for a connection, do you use chips or is it just the name of the connection?
No. For connection, it is chips.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for showing that. Thanks.
Like this, it is a chip for the connection, but in teams, designs, and things in the environments, it is just a plain text.
Oh. Yeah, I don't just if we have a moment, but if we don't, Pranav will push us forward. One of the questions that I had in using this was, well, it's an understanding that you can take a connection and you can place it inside of an environment, great, and then you can create another environment, and you can place the same connection inside of the second environment as well. Like the system allows for that. That's okay to do. That's acceptable. Although sometimes it would be nice to know while I'm trying to line up a few connections for one environment, in the process of creating that second environment and adding connections to the second environment, it would be nice to know which of these connections are already a member of the first environment, because it might affect which ones I want to, because maybe I didn't want them to overlap, maybe. And so I don't know that you have a solution for that or what have you, or that's even really a problem, but I figured I'd ask it out loud in case people had ideas.
Feel like we might have something like a badge or the connection which indicates like when we are transferring like and we hover over it and it shows like assigned to two environments, like a badge indicator for the connection that are already assigned.
Yeah. A tooltip seems like a nice place to start, or a little bit of info in there, because because maybe nobody else cares except for me. Maybe that's not a big use case, and so it doesn't have to be, without taking it as far as showing some sort of visual indicator up front, which becomes even more of a UX, even more work. Shoving something into the tooltip might be able to satisfy that question without having to do much more. Thanks a bunch. That answers my question. So, but I guess just for context for everyone else, since we've got this .7 release coming for Meshery, and it's a big old release. It's been about a year since we went from .5 to .6, and so there's just a ton of things inside of .7. One of those things is environments that we're looking at here. They're brand new, so there's a few things like that. This is nice.
Sonali, anything else you'd like to demonstrate?
That's it.
So, yeah, should you like to add on anything or should we move forward?
Yeah, so I was just saying that we are missing one the hand type and the modal of a field workspace, and we also asked for the description of the workspace that we should show in the card. I think already updated the model, so
Okay.
so now we can see that. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the next item, which is from Sandra on documentation issue linked to main issue. Sandra, would you like to discuss your topic?
Hi guys, hi everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll make this quick and short because it's not really something that needs to go in depth because we've talked about this already. So the main documentation is still open. I received a feedback from the previous conversation we had about this from Rex, I believe. I'm just wondering if I should be waiting or should wait for more feedback from one or two more people before I make the changes and ask for a formal review, because now it's a draft. So the main PR is linked to about 7 or 8 other repositories. I received a notification that the stale bot has decided to detect one of those open linked issues as stale. So I'm not too sure how to feel or do about this. And this is the only inquiry I have. Because once it's marked stale, it's like, okay, put on the red cap. It's no longer green. We need to, get detective kind of here. Like, are we closing issues or whatnot? So I'm just putting this out there.
One thing we can do is just add will fix. There is a label which will remove the stale things. That can help us. I'll do
Okay.
that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
With that said, I will wait for one more review before I formalize the pull request. I'm only doing this because I feel like making a change of this kind to the documentation should receive more feedback from the community at large and not just one or two people. That's it from my end.
Yeah, as we go to as you guys all move forward, I just wanted to call out that I had made a promise to review, and for my part, I've failed to hold up to that promise. And I think the other half, while we can add the will fix label to get the stalebot, the monkey off of our back, that was maybe only like a fifth of the point that Sandra was making. I think the other 4/5 of the point was it's been so darn long that even the stalebot has come around. So for my part, I'm just going to spend time on this today to offer some feedback, because this is so. I just want to hold myself accountable.
So next item is from Akshay on edge styling panel and shape styling panel. Akshay, would you like to discuss?
Okay, so on mesh map, I added the feature to edit the edges, as well as one of the new thing, which is converting the side panel to a Pamela. Now, the only thing that I need to ask is this side, shape styler is taking a lot of space. So because if I center the main thing to like in as the main canvas is always being centered, so whenever a shape is being clicked, then this whole thing overflows and like it gets out, but not get out, but it stays hidden. So that is one of the concern that I think we have with this large shape panel. So should I change it to the similar rectangular thing, or should I keep it that way?
Yeah, actually, we need to compress it like the way the edge Pamela is, so it should be horizontal, not like this, because currently it's just like the sidebar in a Pamela, and it's not good in terms of UX because as you already mentioned. So what we should do is like compress like some things, like only show a single color at first, and I think the color picker, and when we click on the color picker, we will get a secondary Pamela which will show like rest of colors, and maybe just like the sketch pad, and similar for like others like the border type, and just like here we can also like remove a little bit of padding from this Pamela, so like basically like the way FigJam has it, and we should like, I think that's already done, it should be aligned with the node that we're tapping on, like the edge Pamela, like the ones where we show the edge handles.
Okay. So I will be converting all the color picker like into a one single button that will show the color, and it will open a second popover, similar for all the others. Then it might reduce the space and
Yeah,
looks pretty.
actually, like for the shape one, you only need to show the icon. There's no need to like the label for shape. And the sliders are something you need to like think about how we are going to incorporate the sliders, but can be also easily done into the secondary tooltip. And same for the label. It can be like for the label, you can use the text icon. That's usually like the T icon with that brackets. And when we tap on that, this tooltip will come with label editing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's I'm gonna implement that.
Also, like when you implement the border types, stroke types, like fix the small dark mode issue, like the inner fill is not respecting the dark mode.
For the shape one or the edge styler one?
For this shape one.
Okay.
Like this complete editing panel.
Okay. So that will be it from my side, and I will be converting the shape panel into a horizontal one. Yeah.
Next item is, so anybody has any questions on Akshay's item? Okay,
I
considering we have
just
no
wanted
question.
to add something, a slight observation I made anyway, and if it's something he might want to consider, like that is apparently it's the topmost surface of the entire interface. So is there a possibility where once you maybe try to scroll down, that particular menu stays fixed at that spot, and so it's like a part of the screen, but it's not moving, it's not overflowing, so it's part of the canvas. Figma has something similar. That's the idea I got, and I know most of what we do with Meshmap is, picked up from Figma and FigJam one way or the other. With prototypes in Figma, sometimes the prototype menu is off the screen, but when you scroll, you'll be able to see it. So you can apply something similar in that regard, if that's possible. So that can remove the need for any secondary menus on that same menu again. So instead of clicking multiple times on one particular menu, you can just have that one menu. It's big because it's supposed to be, if all those content are necessary, filled out properly, and you still be able to, have proper usability with it. I could show a brief I can show what I'm talking about, but maybe if at another time, maybe if we're running out of time, so we don't take too much time on this.
You can probably share a mock-up in Slack so that we can do more conversation there.
Let's see. Okay, 1 minute. Let me just share it in 1 minute. So I'll yes. quick as possible. So this is what I mean. For instance, if we're trying to prototype something like this from this button here to say this page, yeah. So you notice that this is the prototyping menu, but it's going off the screen. But when I scroll down, I can always see it. Then I can pull it up to wherever, my viewport is. I can edit like this. So even though it might appear off the screen or bleed off the screen, it's not necessarily like as if I won't be able to access it if I scroll. Once I scroll, I'll be able to access it and I'll be able to find it, that kind of thing. So you might check out Figma and see how it works a bit more. Try it out and maybe it can give you some ideas. I just thought I'll add that.
That was a good suggestion. Thanks, Lex. So next item is from Abid and Pranav about me about migrating applications to designs. So Abid, would you like to discuss first?
Yeah. So we recently migrated from the applications construct to our primary construct in Meshery, that's the designs. So applications were like kind of designs, but they are less powerful than what we can usually do with designs. And so we're consolidating those two constructs into one. And as a result, we migrated apps to designs, and part of which was a major change in the backend, which Pranav did, and we changed like all the APIs, and now the most like all of the features that applications had, they are also incorporated in designs, and designs already were more powerful than applications. So now both of them are the same thing. So my work was mostly in the extension point for Meshery, that's the mesh map extension point. So we also migrated it to use the latest updated version of the designs API. And so the application construct has now been removed from Meshery. If you had seen the latest release, there is no application here. And all the features that you were using previously from applications, they are present. Like if you want to import some kind of application, on a development branch, we can do that also. Like we can import different source types of applications, like and from Helm chart or from Kubernetes manifestos. And in the same way, we can also then export. If when we are exporting and design, we can export it in its original form. Like if it was imported from Kubernetes manifest, we can export it back into that. So this was already like implemented for applications, where just consolidated those into like designs. And other part of the change was in Meshery server, which Pranav did, and also the Meshery UI.
Like Abid already covered everything. I just want to say that there are a couple of bugs which were open in Meshery repo. Now I would be working on those. There are small things about import model and few other things. So now I would be focusing on that. And yes, so that was about any questions anybody has.
Maybe just a side comment to say that we were just talking about the .7 release. In the .6 release, applications as a construct, applications as a noun that Meshery deals with, it was introduced in beta. And in this release, .7, it sounds like it's being given the axe, it's being killed. Is that right? Or is there something more to it? Or
So that's pretty much it about it. It's just that we are moving, like in terms of UI, we are just moving applications to designs. Internally, applications are still there, and it's just that it's from our internal perspective, not from users' perspective. Users can still use all of their applications which were already there. That is Kubernetes, Helm chart, and the third one was Docker Compose. And so yeah. That was
Oh, I see. Okay. A consolidation of application functionality into designs.
Yeah.
And okay, so but applications, that won't be something that users, there won't be an application menu then?
yes. There won't
Okay.
be any.
Okay, but people can still
Yeah.
import their manifest there.
Application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
So, sure. Okay, so I was also focusing on adding documentation. Earlier I added documentation for workspaces and environment. Like recently today I added one more PR about documentation credentials. So this basically adds a little bit of more context about what credentials are. There's some of the key features and an example of how credential work for these connections. So if someone can review this so that we can add in our documentation. And I just restructured it because somebody should be at the end. So by mistake, I think I added here. So yeah, this was about other thing. I don't think there would be any questions on this. So okay. So if there are no questions, then moving on to the next item,
Yeah,
which is from Shudha. Yes,
yeah, well,
yes.
I don't know if it's addressed in that document, but one of the things that I wonder if users, oh gosh, I don't know. It's like where does Meshery persist the credentials? Maybe that's kind of, maybe that's not something to answer directly in that page, but more of a universal question to delineate between choice of provider and what occurred. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I guess just thinking aloud, just things that the users might want to know. So, but it seems like a pervasive question that shouldn't be repeatedly answered per page. So, yeah. Okay.
I think we can use that box that we have for giving extra information. Okay. So next item is from Sudhanshu on improvements and bug fix in meshing and connections table. Sudhanshu, would you like to discuss?
Okay, so I have a small update on like recently we enabled connections and meshing tables in Meshery. So it was having a lot of some enhancements were needed and bug fixes. So the search was not working. We were not having column for meshing. The pagination was also broken. So like these and some UI enhancements were also needed. So everything has been covered in this PR. Now, like I were not having a like mesh sync data on my local environment, so I couldn't check, but it would probably work because it was not a new thing, so it would probably work there also. And this tab would be like a global thing, so this enhancement work from the UI side, and all the like bugs were fixed in this PR. Since
Question. Yeah.
okay, like I was okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Okay, and like I was also adding that Kubernetes ping connection that when we click on the chip, like I have not added, but if someone is not doing, then since I'm already on this, so I can add that also.
Yeah, a question. I wonder. Well, how do I ask this like a question, not a suggestion? It seems like there's a couple of things that are happening on these two tabs. If well, on the connections, I just said tab, right? That tabbed menu on the connections tab and the mesh sync tab, and mesh sync does its, there's kind of a lot to it. And I think part of what we're trying to help let people do is maybe take entities that MeshSync has discovered, infrastructure that it has discovered, and sometimes elevate those individual entities to a connection, because connections are a more robust thing that Meshery actively interacts with that particular type of entity or managed thing, like Prometheus maybe, or Jaeger, or and so I wonder if there's an opportunity to explain some of that to users. It seems like there's this life cycle of how mesh sync discovers things, and then sort of how they're treated, and then also that's one thing. I wonder how we can, if there's a place to put a question mark or a place to sort of explain that. Second to that is, as someone is managing the life cycle of a connection, like that GitHub app, maybe they're like, yeah, I had originally authenticated with Meshery with the GitHub, and initially I just gave it access to one repo, but we like how it's doing the snapshot, so I'd like to expand it to additional repos, and I need to update that connection, that connection's status maybe. I wonder, I don't know that as a user I would necessarily know, as I go to switch between statuses, what all to potentially expect. And so I wonder if there's an opportunity or how we can explain that. Is it just a question mark icon with a link to the docs? Is it something else? And we don't have to figure it out right now, or there doesn't even have to be anything. I'm just asking. But Daniel, are you here? Yeah, he still trying to get in good with Daniel. Oh
Yeah, I'm here.
there he is. Good. I'm still hoping, Daniel, you might put in a good word for me. It's just that. Daniel, there are some, we were just talking about documentation a little bit ago. Sudhanshu, do you mind visiting Meshery docs? There's a recently enhanced mesh sync document, and I think it's under the concepts, logical or architectural, and kind of goes on for a while and explains some things that mesh sync does now. And Daniel is actively augmenting and building in new capabilities in the mesh sync, and so I'm sure some of that will bubble up here. But this is kind of what I mean by, geez, just like all of what's happening behind the scenes with mesh sync. For those that are inside the UI, maybe a link to this page will help. Maybe it would only confuse. Uzair, I think you've been working on maybe getting some of the documentation published about connection states, and maybe you're going to talk about that later in the call. But it's a similar question that I have, like, what should people expect when they choose a state like delete? What happens in the system?
We can probably give a confirmation model for users to confirm, are you sure you want to switch the states? So,
and then in there, maybe there's a link to docs or more of an explanation. It's great that there's a toaster notification down below. Is there anything more explanatory? If you click that bell, is there a corresponding? Okay, so there's a corresponding event here. Oh, okay, great. There's room to explain some stuff, and I think there's room for a hyperlink there as well. And I know that someone like Abid might be taking those two icons, those two avatars, and overlapping them so that they look like they're participating, collaborating. Okay.
I think it's that.
What about that eye? Yeah, okay. The eye is just the information. It just says the severity of this event is just an informational thing. Okay. Good. So I don't know. I could be off the rails here, but just Daniel and Uzair, at least the two of you might have some thoughts about how it is that users grok this. Like, I don't know, do they need to understand the life cycle of a connection in terms of its states? Maybe they don't.
And you need to, because like suppose they just delete, and then like everything is lost. So yes, having a hyperlink and a crux of like what that state means inside description, like as Pranav said, we can show the confirmation model, and that we can have an help and a quick tip like what the crux of the state is.
Quick tip, yeah. There's a visual diagram inside of the Meshery architecture deck. I mean, I'm a sucker for visual explanations. I wonder if there's something that helps explain the possible connection states that might also work.
Yeah, exactly, like similar to what we have in our Meshery extension. I mean, but instead of like the components, instead we will represent the 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 visual diagram for connection states. Or even we can go further next level, and we can enable visual control of connection state. For example, you can just drag to move to this state and something like that.
Since we're co-hosting today, I'll go ahead and do the deed. All right, time check. Time to good. Hopefully we'll talk about Sysdent and data tables at some point. Shudanshu, is that using the data table from Sysdent?
From the recent release, we are still can't use the components. Like I today I just used the UI was not working. Something I have to check again from system.
So thank you, Sudhanshu. So and others. So moving on to the next item, which is from Ritik and Prem, which is about new welcome model in Data Cloud. Ritik, would you like to share your screen?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Okay. So Prem and I were working on enhancing the UI of the modal that shows up whenever a user sign up to the Meshery cloud. So currently it looks like this. So it has a lot of text. So most of the time user can't interact with it, or the user is taken to the next webs to the another site, like to the playground, or yani to the another link. So we have enhanced this to have something like this so user can interact with it. For example, if a user selects invite your two teammates to start with, so after selecting it, when a user click on the start, we will open the invite user model. Similarly, mm, if a user select from any of the four tasks, so example, visualize your code on GitHub, the user will be redirected to the GitHub connection page. And for the if a user wants to start with a template, so we are taking users to the catalog page from where user can select. Like currently I am getting this error, I don't know why, but mhm. Okay, from here user can select the catalog, and from the catalog a user can either clone it to get started with the designs. So yeah. Also, this is currently responsive.
Yeah, this looks good, better than how it is right now.
Also, today I will add the gaps inside the Meshery cloud local repo, and because currently we are using the links from the mail. and the Prem provided the scripts so for the from the Meshery cloud. So yeah.
And if you click start, what happens?
Yeah, like then only the process start. Like for example, I selected invite your teammates, so then only the invite user model get, because we are giving users time to select from four tasks that we are showing on the models.
Oh, I see. If they click the button, it doesn't take them there. They
No,
select.
because it might be possible a user not intentionally selected or intentionally not selected the wrong task. So instead of redirecting them to the wrong page, we are giving them time to select from the tasks.
Okay, so thank you, Ritik and Prem, for this. So next item is from Suruchi on assistance sidelock update. Suruchi, would you like to discuss this item?
So I just want to give the update on my good PR. This is the work that I have done till now. So right, and currently we have only two pages designed ready. So for color and typography. So I'm I'm working on this. Yeah, that's all. And one more thing that we I'm currently using JavaScript, but Kingsley advised me to use TypeScript here because it's going to be a documentation site. So TypeScript will be more good. So now we'll be using TypeScript. Yeah, that's the update from my side.
Nice. I have some comments on the choice of green, but I'll leave that for someone else. We did. I think we may as well go ahead and use Parthib's icon or logo. See if it settles in on us, and maybe try it on for size. So there's a logo, Suruchi, that's inside of the repository, I think. But wow, it's the whole. Last time we met, there wasn't a website, and then this time, there's a whole site and layout and menu and intra-page navigation, and then tabs and buttons, and my goodness, and footer, and wow.
So I just want to also, should I move to TypeScript? Like Kingsley advised me.
Anybody else? Antoinette, do you have a perspective?
No, it looked pretty good though. I see what you mean about that green though.
Rex, we're doing the virtual arm wrestle, and the guy's got a forearm on him. I tell you what, it's like, yeah, well, great. But Suruchi, I think
I'll be in trouble, but let me just say this here. There's reasons for it, as I think I've explained a couple of times. You might want to take a look at the full color page. It's actually explained there anyway, and it's primarily accessibility reasons. So maybe it just might grow on us. Hopefully, that's the idea. But there's no point conveying a message if it might pose a threat to some users' experience on the site. Yeah.
Suruchi, to your other question, I suspect you might be encouraged to lean into TypeScript. I think that's what you're sort of looking for, some guidance as you implement that website. should you be doing TypeScript or should you be doing JavaScript? And
No, like currently we have done like I've done only two works, so I can if it's suggested and I can now move to TypeScript. Uh, it's possible for me to now move to TypeScript.
Actually, like if you want to start using TypeScript, it will be good, but like JavaScript is not like anything bad for site like this because it doesn't use any logic, and we don't need that power of TypeScript like a static analysis of that sort. But if you are willing to learn it and use it, it can be a good opportunity to you to learn TypeScript and use it. But like otherwise you can continue with JavaScript. I don't see a problem with JavaScript here. But I don't see anything wrong.
have we celebrated this yet, Suruchi? Like, it's no small thing to bring up a site like that. I mean, some of the initial work can go kind of quick, but still, as you go to curate each of those areas and bring them to life, it's still a fair bit of work. As a matter of fact, I think it was a fairly large PR that you'd put in as well, which represents just how much work that was. So Suruchi, after, as that lands and do you know what's left? What else do you need to do on that site? Is the framework and all of the interactions kind of done and it's just all about content now? Or are there more things that you need to do on the site itself?
Actually, I have to make two more components, then only documentation part will be done.
Oh, I see. Okay. And so this is actually a really, maybe let's rephrase your question just slightly. I think I misinterpreted what you were asking. So part of the next focus for you is to, with the site there and the ability to present content to consumers of the design system, now it's time to build out more of that content, and that some of that content is components, and then like a button component, and making that button component part of the package that gets presented to users of visitors of the site. And if I'm re-understanding correctly, your question about TypeScript versus JavaScript is more like, hey, as you go to work on some of those components, some of which are already there's already a collection of many of them there. Was your question about TypeScript with respect to that? Like, hey, should you be making those components for users to reuse and digest in TypeScript or in JavaScript? Was that the question, or was your question just about the site itself?
It's just about site. It's just about site.
Just about the site? Okay. Okay, good. Didn't. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Suruchi. So moving on to the next item, which is from Chandra Vijay, which is about converting class to functional component. Chandra Vijay, would you like to discuss?
Let me share this. So basically, we here is about converting the class to functionals component of Meshery setting. So this is a here, and let me show you the UI of this. So basically, we are working on this component, and it is working as expected.
Wonderful. Good. Okay. Hey, by time check, by the way, we need to talk about MeshSync and Daniel's work. Anything else on this, Chandra Vijay?
No. Any feedback? Yeah.
No, just to actually to get data in there and do testing with data. If you're able to, I don't know, if you are able to have a Prometheus laying around, it'd be good to see that data actually does go into the Prometheus dropdown and you can select it. And there's logic within there that may or may not get messed up as you transition it.
Okay, I'll do that.
A quick way to get a Prometheus is to just use like the Istio adapter, which doesn't require any, you don't have to do Golang, just deploy Meshery, deploy the adapter and click the switch. But it's good. It's good. I apologize that the transition from class-based to functional has been we've been having a bunch of bad experiences with accepting people's work and then having lots and lots of bugs, and not necessarily yours, but just in general. And it's caused a bunch of turmoil. And so the reviews have been really slow on these. So apologies. Very good. Thanks a bunch. Daniel, let's talk about your MeshSync.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So I'll start by at least just giving a brief overview of the problem and the history and the solution so far. Okay, so a brief overview of the problem is that currently in a cluster, we have MeshSync that observes events that happen within the cluster, and then it reports those events to the Meshery server. Now, of late, there's come a situation where it's over-reporting events, and then that's sort of going so hard on the Meshery server that it's slowing down performance. So one proposal was to have a way of dynamically configuring what MeshSync will listen to and observe. And then for that, the vessel of transportation for that information should be the CRD. The Meshery operator already has a CRD. So initially started by augmenting the CRD and putting the actual configs on the CRD, but then there were multiple discussions, and whenever we deal with configuration, the proposal was to use a config map. So at this point, we are using a config map to try and capture the information and then have MeshSync read from that config map, and not only know which particular resources to listen to, but also the specific events. This example is an added event, a modified event, a deletion event, something like that. So pending after a discussion on the way forward that we could do, we had sort of three things that we need to have the config map get, and that is a whitelist list of resources that we're going to choose from, and then a blacklist list of resources that we're going to not listen to, and then the kind of events that we want to listen to. So the first half was just updating the Meshery operator to add the config object as a config map, and then on the other side, from the MeshSync point of view, reading that config map and then interpreting. So I'll just go straight to the kind of challenges that I saw with the config map, and then I stand to be corrected. Okay. First, with the blacklist and whitelist. So ideally, I had difficulty in understanding what's the difference between the two, in terms of, if we do have a whitelist, why should we have a blacklist? Because whitelist is already everything that is tick, which means everything else should not be catered for. But blacklist would sort of do the same thing, but with so I think it's either one or the other, but we can have a discussion on that. And then the second thing that I got to is that now, in configuring the resources that we would want to monitor, say, for example, we want to monitor pods, and then we want to monitor the add and modified event. So this quickly becomes a complex JSON because config map will only accept a dictionary of a string and a string. So the remaining configuration would be, say the events would have to be in another list. So to illustrate my point, this is a sample configuration that we would have to do. So the whitelist would take in a resource and then the events, and then already it seems rather a complicated JSON because you have to do all the JSON encoding to make it be a valid string. So this is a potential consideration with going with that approach that warrants a discussion. Yes. So, but you can look at the PR and then you can give me much more feedback. There was also a question as to there's a file that was added. There's a duplication of CRD, and I would like to. Okay, I'm digging too much into the code, but I can address that on Slack if it wasn't understood well. Thank you.
Was there or others feedback?
Basically, I want to talk about like the structure of like how we will capture that thing. I was thinking more in terms of like Meshery models, like the way we define the for example, like if you consider Kubernetes model, we have like kind and everything. So if we can follow the same structure to determine like which resources to follow and which resources to not to watch, because like this will ultimately help in also fingerprinting the discovered resources easily. So if we can get rid of the current structure of pipeline configs that we have in MeshSync to what we have in Meshery, like basically the Meshery model structure.
Could you like share on Slack an example of what you mean?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
If those references are used, how does that manifest? How are those represented differently outside of something like that? The list that Daniel was just showing.
It will not be much different. It like if you have seen like relationships, it has like the from and to, so it will be correspond to like the positive list and the negative list, and inside that thing, so it will not be much different, but the schematic structure would ensure like we follow.
Oh, I see.
The same path.
Okay. Oh.
And also like only this information will only be captured inside messing CR, or I mean like only config map, or we can provide as an environment variable and other stuff as well. And what will be the priorities of this?
Yeah, it probably does need to be support. So by the way, I know we're going over time just a little bit. We'll try to grab, if anybody has a link to a relationship definition, I think that will help convey Uzer's first point about how a whitelist or a blacklist, like what's of interest can be expressed a little bit differently. So maybe somebody will find that. To your other suggestion, Uzer, it is actually important in the long run that that MeshSync be configurable like outside of a config map in something like an environment variable, or because Kubernetes won't be the only platform that Meshery manages. That MeshSync would ultimately run against AWS or Azure or GCP or other systems, other platforms. Having said that, by the time that MeshSync does that and manages those other platforms, it may not be running in, like, it'll either be reincarnated into a different form specific to that platform, or it will continue to run as a custom controller in the same form factor that it's in right now, which is a custom controller. I don't know. I guess like maybe I take my words back. It's certainly a future discussion, but to the extent that MeshSync points at other platforms and supports other platforms, that the question would be: is MeshSync running it in its same form factor? Like, are we going to require, if you're going to manage AWS, are we going to require having Kubernetes present? Which would mean that MeshSync could stay in its current form and continue to run as is, but point at a different platform. To the extent that it's in the same form, it could still be configured via config map. There wouldn't necessarily be the need to do an environment or via environment. If MeshSync is reincarnated and runs elsewhere, like that might be when an environment variable might be helpful instead of just a config map, because it might be running outside of Kubernetes. Probably not something to address now, just because it's a little ways off, and it's easy enough to do then as it is now, I think. Daniel, this example here, and as we go to wrap up the meeting, under here where it has the selectors section, it's saying like, hey, here's what's of interest. This is a policy expressed in YAML, and the policy is, imagine that it's saying here's a whitelist under the selectors. So instead of allow, it's like, maybe it's like of interest, or it's like it says whitelist, and then it says, and basically you go about the process of saying, well, pods are of interest, so we want to know about pods. And then underneath pod, it's like, but not just persistent volume. Instead of persistent volume claim, it says event type, and instead of name, it says added. So like this might be that an alternative structure for this potentially this. It's not just because the way that this is expressed, but potentially this is a little more concise to the extent that an asterisk, a star, like a wild card, is supported here. It's not that you couldn't support a star, a wild card in the dictionary that we currently have, but it might be like, hey, pods are of interest. Okay, specifically what type of events? Star, like all events. I mean, you can still express that in the dictionary. Maybe if this confuses things and it causes another month for this to go forth, Uzair, I would suggest that we use just the dictionary to start with and we need to accept the streaming lists enhancement that Daniel already has, and I think is done. And then he's got this next one here, which I think is more or less ready to be accepted. At the risk of haranguing everyone, just to answer Daniel's question about whitelist versus blacklist, in some respects, it ends up being about convenience and the perspective from which sometimes you have to do a contortion of the mind to achieve what you want to achieve, if you, only from one vector. If you only have a blacklist as a tool, it can be kind of painful. You can't always get what you want with just one. And it's through working through a couple of examples, you start to see like, oh, okay, some of the time I just needed one list or the other, but there'll be certain cases in which it's like, well, look, if I didn't have if there's an implicit denial at the end of a whitelist, like at the end of a whitelist, there's always an implicit blacklist. If you were to make statements like that, it becomes a little, and vice versa. Hopefully supporting both would mean it's the same, would just be an inversion for you, hopefully, or wouldn't be. Yeah. I guess maybe the hard part would be like, are both supported at the same simultaneously? Can people express both at the same time?
Yeah. I get it now.
I hope that wasn't too abstract for everybody, but it's cool. It's a great suggestion from my part, I think, from Uzair about leaning into the model. There's a model by which Meshery runs and understands the infrastructure that it's under management. And as it goes to, as we go about the business of fingerprinting or discovering infrastructure, when we discover some entity and it turns out that that's a Prometheus pod, well, the way that when the fingerprinting and the classification is done, it will be expressed in this syntax, in this Meshery models. And so, gosh, if we're going to, then it makes sense to like express whitelists and black, things that are of interest, whitelists and blacklists for discovery process using the same model, using the same format. So I don't know how well easily this fits into a config map. It might be that the config map contains references to policies, that the policies themselves don't really fit inside. I'm not sure. If it could be that they fit inside the dictionary. It could be a dictionary of strings, and the strings could be this. One of the strings could be a policy like this.
Yeah, and just also to confirm, so if we are sort of having a rather complex object, let's say, because we want to track an event, a resource that we want to track, and then the events within the resource. Are we okay with, because if you have to pass it to a config map, it has to be a valid string, which means we have to ensure it's valid for JSON with the black backslashes and all that. Are we comfortable with using that?
Yeah, it's terrible on the human eye,
Yep.
But
yeah, super. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. I think we are already past 10 minutes. So I think we all learned something new today. So see you all in the next development call. But don't miss out the next newcomers call, which would be tomorrow on Thursday. So yeah, that's all. Thank you all for joining.
Bye.
Thanks, Pranav.